Hey everyone, Alison Gardner here, and I'm doing this video tonight because I wanted to share what I am kind of affectionately coming to call, not so affectionately, starting to call my anger cycle. And I'm going to go a lot of different places and I'm going to touch a lot of different ground, and I really hope that you won't judge me for pieces that don't speak to you, because I realize that this is my personal experience. I realize this is where I'm coming from and what I feel and what I struggle with, and you might have a different perspective on some parts, but I hope that maybe some of the things that I share will ring true for you. And I hope that even if they don't go, yes, I've had that exact experience, that it might help you understand as you support people who support those with depression. So as you're supporting supporters, or as you are interacting with people who are going through emotional cycles where it can seem so clear and obvious to you what they just need to do, to understand that sometimes when you're in the middle of that emotion, you are just trapped. And that you try and thinking logically about it doesn't fix it. Trying to break it down into little pieces and figure out root causes doesn't fix it. And you just feel like you're trapped. Sometimes emotion can just build and build and build and just weigh on top of you, and just this huge weight that overwhelms you, and no amount of thinking, no amount of writing, no amount of trying to process and force your way through makes it better. You just ride it out the best way you can until you kind of have an aha moment, and then you're able to step back and that weight lifts a little bit so that you can focus. I've had this show up more often to me than I care to admit in my marriage. And sometimes this cycle comes because of broken expectations or hopes. Sometimes this comes because my faith feels like it's being crushed, and I make a split-second decision to buy into that doubt and that fear or that anger, or feed that negativity, and then the hope that could be there I sort of force out because I am trying to feed other emotions. We're taught that faith and fear cannot exist together, and it's true. You in your life are actively choosing to either feed your faith or to feed your fear, and to feed that doubt. And so once you make that choice, whichever one you choose, the funny thing is, if you choose to feed faith, that choice to feed faith is going to be tested. You also, however, will have the faith to strengthen you through that test. Once you choose doubt and fear, it is a downward spiral. There is not a lot of steps to choose faith until you hit rock bottom, like rock bottom. And then that choice is given to you again. And I've seen this play out as I prayed for my husband to find healing, as I prayed for him to be relieved of this weight that was on his shoulders, that his only escape he felt was death. And those that I've talked to and those who struggle with depression, it's not about not liking, it's not about wanting to die, it's about feeling like you're being crushed, and praying that weight would be relieved, or praying that he would be able to do well on this exam, or that his tooth would stop hurting, or just all of these things of prayers that never seemed to be answered. And I didn't feel any stronger, and I didn't feel any more capable, and he didn't feel any more capable. And watching those prayers feel like they're hitting the ceiling and bouncing back, or even worse, knowing that God heard them and not seeing it change. So those are the big things. That was when I struggled with my fear and I struggled with my doubt. It wasn't a lack of knowledge of the plan of salvation. It wasn't a lack of knowledge that God was there, but it was just feeling so powerless because I felt like he wasn't acting in my life. And so that was then, and that was the kind of mindset that I would get into, where faith just didn't feel like it was enough. And then we moved through, and things have gotten lighter and things have gotten better. And so I just sort of thought that that wouldn't come again. That wouldn't happen again. But it showed up for me again, that same frustration, that same anger, that same doubt. And I become very petulant. I also refer it sort of as my punk phase, where people try and walk me through it, and they try and help me kind of logically think through it, or they ask me questions to help me process, and I just am stuck, and I'm just angry, and just thinking that like this should feel better. I know that I should handle this better, and I just can't seem to, and I just can't work through it. And it's so soul crushing for me, because I'm angry, and I shouldn't be. I'm frustrated, or I feel lost, and I feel like the answers are just so close, but there's just this wall, and I can't get through them. So far, this has all been very abstract, but I want to break it down into more, into a concrete example. So I've been feeling a lot of frustration in my current life, just because depression is hard. And anxiety is hard. And if the depression's not there, the anxiety's there. And if the anxiety's not there, then the depression's there. And it means not a lot of touch. It means not a lot of interaction. It means a lot of us both stressed, because neither one of us can really meet the needs of the other person. And so that was the foundation for what's been going on. I'm so grateful that my husband is in school, and that he is determined to do fantastic. That makes me really happy. But it also means that I feel like there's not a lot of bandwidth for me. And so I do whatever I can to try and support that, but sometimes all I can do is sit back and watch. So that's the ground level for this. I feel like I'm being sidelined, and it's not really anybody's fault. And we try and talk about it, but sometimes the stress just gets heavy enough that that's what happens. And so first that. Second, no touch. No interactions to kind of help fill my cup, because touch is one of my love languages. And then stressful things are just happening in life and in work, and I feel like I'm hitting kind of my threshold. I'm hitting my threshold of what I can handle, because I just feel so pointless and so useless, and that makes me feel hopeless. And I haven't seen any end in sight. And so I was sharing with some friends what were going on and talking through things with them, and both of them said, well, you need to speak up, and you need to see if there are some other options. And I was really nervous to do that, because with my husband in school and with what's going on, I'm currently the breadwinner of the family, and so I'm very wanting to continue working well at my job and having good positive reports there. And I want to do a good job. Like, at the end of the day, I want to be useful, and I want to do a good job. I want to make a difference. I think we all want those things. And so to feel like I'm not, my friends were like, well, you should talk about things and look at other options, just where you are, and see what you can do. And so I prayed a lot about it, and I put a lot of focused pondering and prayer and consideration, and I felt like, yep, I should say a couple things and put myself out there in a couple ways. And so the next day I went to work, and I put myself out there, and I said a couple things and tried a couple things, and felt really good about it and really positive about it. And came home and wanted to share what was going on, and he was not in a place where he could do that. He was full, and it was so hard to say, can I share this with you, and have him say, I'm sorry, there's no room. And it wasn't his fault, it wasn't anybody's fault, but it just was what it was. And so I was wrestling with that, and I was sick, and so I wasn't feeling well there either. And come Monday, I went to talk to some other people, and was shut down. It felt like I was shut down hard. And in the moment, I took it really well and just went, okay, we do still have a plan moving forward, so I'm just going to embrace this plan and do the best that I can moving forward, and it's going to be great. And then I left that conversation, and some doubts cropped up. And this little niggling voice said, well, what was the point of you bringing stuff up last week if it's just crumbled today and you got shut down? And I am sad to admit that I heeded that voice. And I fed that voice. And I started questioning why. What was the point? Why did I put myself out there? Why did I ask those questions? Why did I do these things if I were just going to get shut down? How does this fit into God's plan? And I have so many goals and desires and places I want to be, and I just feel like every door I go gets slammed in my face, and I keep getting the information. You just heed those little promptings. You just go step by step. But those things never seem to get me anywhere. And so I was just so frustrated, and I fed that voice. And for the next 24 hours, I was going through hell. I was doubting every decision. I was questioning everything that was going on, and I was trying to let go. I felt like I had been baited and switched. I felt like I had been betrayed. I could just feel bitterness growing, and I was taken back to what I started this video with, of I don't ever get what I want. That I'm not worth it, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough to get what I pray for. And all of that came rushing back. And I didn't know how to get out of it. That doubt and that fear and that frustration just got so big. I didn't know. And I was talking to a friend, and she was trying to walk me through it, and she was trying to help me go through it. And I had to keep stepping out of the conversation because I was so stressed and so overwhelmed and so frustrated. And I was talking to a friend, and a friend I hadn't told, this is a different friend that I hadn't told anything of what was going on with. And she said, well, what about this scenario?